Hey there guys, and welcome to FP1. We've just had round 5 of the season at the Silverstone race circuit for the 70th Anniversary Grand Prix, with Lewis Hamilton taking another win for Max Verstappen taking a win for Red Bull. We didn't see that, we didn't expect that at the start of this weekend, did we? So yeah, we all kind of thought it was going to be Mercedes domination. I think I tweeted out at the start of the race, I was like, you know what, it's going to be pretty obvious here. Mercedes is going to run away with it, Holt's going to lose P3 to Verstappen, and then it will stick with those three for the entirety of the race. I was completely wrong. Well, I was sort of, after lap 1 I was right. Anyway, after that, I was completely wrong because strategy was so dominant today, and really that's how Verstappen and Red Bull did it. But before we jump into all of that, let's start by talking about lap 1 and the start of that race. A little less action-packed than last weekend, but still very interesting, about a few things to talk about. Sebastian Vettel, we've got to talk about him first. Spinaling again, completely on his own. That could have been very, very, very serious. I think he just missed Carlos Sainz, and he just missed one of the AlphaTauris. I think it was Kvyat as well. So, yeah, that was, I don't know, for me, I don't know how he did it. I think he might have got on the curb on the inside of turn 1, and that maybe unsettled the car, and I genuinely thought he was going to take out Sainz, cause a monster accident at the back of the field. Thankfully, that didn't happen, but that would have really shaken the race if we did have a safety car after that. So, I don't know. But still, it was a very good race anyway, so I'm not complaining. So yeah, I'll be honest, at that point, I'd kind of taken my attention off the top 3. Verstappen had got ahead of Hulkenberg like I predicted at the start, and I was like, okay, they're going to run away with that. I'm going to focus more on the midfield. Alex Albon, who was having a great race, we'll talk about him a little bit later. But then it cuts to Verstappen, and he's literally a second behind Hamilton. I was like, hang on a second, what's happened there? Since when was he? And he'd been catching slowly, because at the end of like lap 1, the Mercedes were miles away. And then Verstappen was slowly kind of getting his way back in there, and no one had really noticed it, because at this point we're just so used to the Mercedes just running away at the front and no one else being able to challenge them. But here was Verstappen saying, I'm not going to drive like a grandma, and no, he didn't. You know, I think Verstappen managed his tyres so well this weekend, really did bits with them. Mercedes, I think Hamilton came over and was like, they're running those tyres at way lower pressures than they should. Something's up there, but no, you know, I don't know how Verstappen did it, but I think it's more an issue with that Mercedes car, because yes, quite a few teams were struggling, but you know, Ferrari got Leclerc to the end on the one-stop strategy in P4, I think, but yeah, they just could not make that work. I think coming into this weekend, especially with the softer tyres and what happened at the end of last week's race with both Mercedes cars blowing up, we didn't think the one-stop would even be an option for anyone. I heard a few people saying 4 stops, and I think that's ridiculous, but the one-stop, it worked for a few guys today, and Max probably could have run with it. I think they did pit again just to kind of be safe, because they got track position. It's okay, they might as well pit for new tyres and not run the risk of Bottas being quicker at the end of the race. But yeah, it was very, very different. Not really what we were expecting. I was surprised we didn't see any cars blowing up the tyres. It was very, very hot. The track temperature was soaring just before the Grand Prix, and even before that, I think in the Formula 2 race, we saw, I think, Christian Lundgaard have a tyre failure on the front left, just like we saw at the end of the Formula 1 Grand Prix at Silverstone last weekend. So I was expecting teams to be very, very cautious on that strategy, but no, they play it to perfection. So fair play to Red Bull, and fair play to anyone else like Ferrari and Leclerc, who got that one-stop working as well. So yeah, Max Verstappen taking the win then. He didn't really put a foot wrong. I really don't think he did. And when he was overtaking, I think it was it Bottas? Yeah, after his pit stop. So he came back behind Bottas. Brilliant overtake straight away from coming out the pits. And for me, we saw a different side of Verstappen. We didn't see the Verstappen that can be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Quite aggressive straight out the box. He waited for there to be a space. And this, I think, was the mistake that he's always made throughout his career. He will go for that move as soon as the gap opens up. And that can lead to what we saw at the start of his 2018 season, where he made all those mistakes. But I think he took his time a little bit more this weekend. He sized up those opportunities, didn't take any unnecessary risks, and that's really what got him the win today as well, alongside the strategy. So fair play to Max on that one. But for me, my drive of the day was his teammate Alex Albon, who pulled off some brilliant moves. I'm surprised Alex wasn't higher up there for driver of the day. I can see why Max got it, but there was a move, I think, around the outside of Raikkonen at Copse Corner. He loved Copse Corner today, and he loved going around the outside as well. Some brilliant racing from Alex today, and really the race, the weekend that he needed. Obviously, he didn't have a great qualifying, got out-qualified by Leclerc in the Ferrari and Gasly in the AlphaTauri, but you know, he really brought it back in the race, and that's going to be a massive confidence boost for him at a time where he really needs it. Obviously, his career on the line at the moment, and with the likes of like Nico Hulkenberg doing very, very well and not having a solid seat in Formula 1, he's really got to keep an eye on his back. So fair play to Alex there, he needed that. I hope now he can take that confidence and take what he's learned from this weekend forward and keep this momentum going. We'll just have to see next weekend on that one. The other driver I want to talk about is Danny Kvyat. Now, he wasn't mentioned barely at all in the build-up to the race or in the race itself, but he was very much a dark horse in this one, getting a point in P10 at the end, getting ahead of Pierre Gasly as well, and fair play to him. I mean, he had a bit of a dog of a qualifying. I think he should have got out of Q1, but then his last lap time was deleted, meaning that Russell got into Q2 instead. But he pulled it back, you know. I said last weekend that Kvyat was doing so well before that crash, and yeah, he's proved it. He has got pace around this circuit, and I tell you what, if these rumours that Spain might be cancelled and we'll get a third race at Silverstone are true, I think AlphaTauri would be pretty happy. They seem to have a car that really works around this track. Now, we can't talk about the British Grand Prix, or the 70th Anniversary Grand Prix, without talking about Nico Hulkenberg as well. This guy, again, like, his qualifying on Saturday was something else, P3, and I think we were all hoping that he could get that podium. And even towards the end, when he was sat in like P4, P5, obviously at this point we didn't know if Leclerc was going to make it to the end, so we were expecting Leclerc to pit. That would have put into P4. If something happened with Max's tyres or any of the Mercs tyres, he could maybe slip down, or they could maybe slip down, and Hulk could possibly get that podium. I think we were probably scraping the bottom of the bucket there, really clutching at straws. I think we all wanted it to happen. This is going to be the best choice in his career. I think if he does get a full-time drive for 2021, it's not going to be with Racing Point. It's not going to be with a team that can really challenge for podiums. It's going to be an Alfa Romeo or a Haas somewhere along that part, unless something magical happens and he ends up in the Red Bull. But I think that is so unlikely at this point. So it's an interesting one. And at the end, he was pitted to go on the soft tyre. I think he was the only guy, bar whoever started on the soft. I don't know. I can't remember who did, but bar the only driver that started on the soft. That was the only time we saw soft tyre using the race. Right at the end, with about 5-6 laps to go. And that tyre was just too soft. It degraded so quickly, and I think Hulk just lost that pace. Maybe they were going for fastest lap. I think it was a bit of a silly decision from Racing Point for me. He lost 3 or 4 positions as a result, and with only about 10 laps when he made that pit stop left of the race, he wasn't going to make those positions back. So I think they should have just kept him out there. Stroll kept it out there, so unless there was an issue with tyres that we haven't heard yet, there was a slow puncture or something, Hulk should have stayed out. I think it was a mistake for Racing Point today. You know, so on paper, Stroll finished ahead of Hulk in the race, got more points, but really, you know, Nico was miles ahead of Lance this weekend from the offset, from practice. I think over practice and qualifying, I want to say Lance beat him in FP2, but that's about it. Other than that, Hulk was quicker than Lance, and it's just criminal that this guy hasn't got an F1 seat at this point, isn't it? But of course, there are still rumours with Sergio Perez as to whether he'll be even there to sit the next race in. I think it could be Spain, it could be Silverstone. I think Spain, they've already rescheduled some of their events later in the year. So I'm surprised we've not had anything on the Formula 1 Grand Prix yet. I think if that race does get cancelled, we'll probably end up in Silverstone again. If they can sort that out, you know, rapid timing. Maybe they can, and I hope they do. But I'd imagine it's going to still be at Spain since we haven't heard anything yet. But if it does end up at Silverstone, I feel like Nico will be happy with that. If he gets the seat again, we don't know whether Perez, as I said, will get into that Racing Point car. Still obviously positive for coronavirus. It's a very difficult situation at the moment. He's now sat out that quarantine period, but he's still positive. And the way the FIA do it is if you're positive, you're not coming into the paddock, which I get, which I completely get. I think that's completely fair enough. So if he's positive before going to Spain, do not be surprised to see Hulkenberg in that car again, and I think a lot of people will be very happy with that. But yeah, those are just my quick thoughts on the 70th Anniversary Grand Prix. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thanks again for all the support on the channel recently, guys. It has been absolutely incredible, and there's going to be more and more content coming out for you guys over the course of next week. We've got the post-podium podcast coming out on Monday or Tuesday or whenever I can find time to edit it. That'll be coming out soon, so stay tuned for that one later in the week. But I will see you guys then. Have a good one.